All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. So once again, my name is Kevin Hancock, Director of Solutions here at Exostar. And thanks for joining me today for our Beyond Compliance, how to securely handle CUI while meeting DFARS and ITAR ERA requirements. Before I dive into the formal presentation and demonstration, just want to cover a few housekeeping details. So today's webinar scheduled to last 30 minutes. Now, that does include Q&A. Now, you're going to be muted during today's presentation, but if you submitted a question prior to today's session, I'll try to cover that at the end. If not, I'll just jump to the chat and try to answer as many questions that come over that as I can before we run out of time. Now, if for some reason we do have an outage during today's presentation, don't worry about it. You can come back into the session a couple of different ways. You can either just try to refresh your screen and rejoin that way, or if you go back to the link that you used to open today's session, you can come in that way as well. Now, if one of the questions you might have is, will I get a copy of the slides and a copy of today's presentation? The answer is yes. As a follow-up to today's session, we'll send you a PDF copy of the slides, as well as a recording of today's session. If at any time you'd like to speak with someone from Exostar, if you've got questions about our products or about the particular solution that we're going to talk about today, our Managed Microsoft 365, you can reach out to us a couple of different ways. You can email us at managedmicrosoft365@exostar.com. You can also come to our website, www.exostar.com. There's a form there on every page that you can fill out and come in and talk to and get your questions answered that way as well. So when we talk about collaboration in highly regulated industries, in particular the aerospace and defense, we're typically talking about how do we secure that information in compliance with CMMC, or obviously NIST 800-171, since those go hand in hand, or those other regulations like ITAR, where I've got that controlled unclassified information, where I may need to share that internally. But more importantly, how do I share that securely and collaborate with those outside my organization? Where can I create that easy to use system that allows that security and the history of that collaboration, where I can do both synchronous collaboration in real time, if you will, open documents, co-edit, that kind of stuff, chats, all those kinds of things that we may want to do at the same time, or how can I do that asynchronous, where if I make a change, people will see the changes I've made, they know that I made them, those kinds of activities. And that's the solution we're going to talk about today. How do I do that, and how do I stay secure? So, Exostar, as many of you know, and many of you may utilize today, is a network of organizations within the aerospace and defense area. Exostar's community are those individuals who work across that network today, who go into applications, many of these supply chain collaboration tools, but many of these just regular collaboration tools, where you work together to solve problems. Today, that network is, as you see here, about 52,000 organizations and over 200,000 users who are already credentialed into this Exostar community and using applications via Exostar's front end. That's our identity and access management platform that many of you know as our Managed Access Gateway. Now, when people talk about how do we collaborate securely, Microsoft itself has come up with this idea and has worked with the NDIS Act to determine what is the best way to share information between two different organizations. And they came up with this architecture based on Microsoft because they were one of the partners that worked with them in this recommendation. to create what they call a meet me tenant. Now, many of us may think of this as an extranet as well. It is that air-gapped system, in this case, a Microsoft Teams tenant, where you explicitly work with your partners. It's air-gapped from your corporate tenant, and it fills that need where you may not want to invite others directly into your tenant to work. When you do that kind of collaboration, and this is easily done within the Teams environment, you do open the possibility of oversharing or not providing or providing too much information or even not enough information to those partners. You may invite them into areas that you may not want to. You may provide documents to them that you didn't really intend to, or they don't really have rights to do. And if you will, the best way to ensure that that doesn't happen is actually to create this secondary tenant, ensure that people move the information between the two tenants and work in those separately. Now, this does create some overhead, obviously, right? There are sometimes then in this kind of space, two different copies of documents, but the one you want to share with the partner, the changes they want to occur, etc., you can obviously make a workflow that has changes occur in one, and then when a document is finalized or something like that, you bring it to the other. But these are really truly for those collaboration efforts that you want to do with those third parties. More importantly, by not inviting them into your tenant, you unburden your IT staff from having to configure your tenant to ensure that the oversharing doesn't occur, that third parties don't get access to information that they shouldn't, that the DLP controls are correctly configured to ensure that confidential information or other CUI type information is not available. And obviously this includes the things like ITAR information that you must only share with certain people, that only US citizens or US persons may or should have access to. Now, when we start to think about this in the Microsoft parlance around, well, what kind of cloud environment that they have, so which of the different GCC environments or the commercial environments from Microsoft is it okay for me to use for particular compliance requirements? Microsoft has this handy table which lays out those different compliance requirements, those CMMC, the level 1 and level 2, so that's the FCI as well as the CUI, the ITAR information, as well as a number of different standards. The FedRAMP standards around 853, etc. What typically, what they clearly lay out is if you've got that ITAR information, and this is one of those things that is kind of that glaring need for a number of folks, you really need to be in GCC high. And this is obviously a cost-conscious measurement for a number of companies because there is a cost of moving between these different clouds and standing up the infrastructure within those. It may be a large burden for organizations, especially those organizations where only a small percentage of their company works on the DoD contracts or is a subcontractor to those that do, or if they're going to be inviting third parties and maybe those third parties don't have their own licensing and things like that, they may have to do some additional licensing and things like that. So that can come with a fairly hefty price tag to work with those in the GCC high environment. So we want to be able to narrow down the scope and only allow those users access to what we call, again, this meet me tenant, to allow us to make sure that we physically separate that information that needs to be separated, that we only work with those parties that have been explicitly invited to work with us, that we set up and establish that trust relationship with those third parties. We make sure they have the right credentialing. We make sure they have the right kind of multi-factor authentication to get into the system, and that the system itself is built with those controls that allow me to enforce and adhere to those different compliance requirements I may have. So Exostar has a solution called our Managed Microsoft 365. This solution is a Teams environment up in GCC High. It allows that easy to use collaboration infrastructure, right? Many of us are familiar with Teams. Many of us use it on a daily basis. This is another Teams enclave set up and managed by Exostar. With our larger organizations, we offer this as a single tenant solution. So this tenant is dedicated to you. It has an Exostar application embedded within it with the necessary controls in there to satisfy 85 of those 110 NIST 800-171 controls. The Exostar application allows you to manage this on your own. So you're the one who creates the teams, invites the users, but the application embedded within the Teams interface allows you to put those guardrails around your creation. So everything is set up in a least privileged access model and allows you to ensure that people only get access to the environment when you explicitly invite them into it, and it works for them only within those teams they've been explicitly invited into. The architecture is as you see here, and as I just kind of explained, it is that single tenant stood up for an Exostar customer. It has this application, this Exostar Managed Microsoft 365 application embedded within it. That federates it to the Exostar Managed Access Gateway. That is the identity and access management solution. Many of you use this today to get into supplier collaboration tools that you may be utilizing. It's the thing you're using to work with many companies today. This can also, if you've got your own GCC High environment, we can also provide an Azure B2B connection. So you can come in utilizing those same Microsoft credentials that you use today and not bring you through our managed access gateway. For your partners, we're going to, again, have you invite them into the tenant. You can designate those to either come through Exostar's MAG, or if you already have a trust relationship with that partner, you can also set up that connection as well for Azure B2B. Now, once you've invited an individual user in, because just because you've given an organization access doesn't mean that everybody in that organization automatically sees that this is available and can get in. You have to invite a user explicitly into the tenant. When you do that, you're going to join them to a particular team. And this, again, is all managed by that Exostar application embedded within. And you're going to give them a particular role. Now, that Exostar application creates custom roles to, again, allow this least privileged access, allow you to determine, what those teams that user should have access to. Now, if it's a member of your organization and you want them to then go on and manage that space, you can give them that team manager role. Or you can give them just a member role in that. And that can be for your internal folks or those third parties that you want to work with in this environment. It also provides some additional permissioning and functionality within the tenant to allow you to ensure that CUI or those sensitive documents, that ITAR information, et cetera, doesn't necessarily come into your corporate environment. It allows you to create a file drop that we call, which I'll show you, which basically creates a mailbox at the team level that allows people to send information in or send information out of the tenant without bringing it into a corporate system. It also allows you to create a permission within the team space to not allow people to download information. So maybe you want to segregate the teams. Maybe you want to make sure that your third parties can't actually download the information from a particular team space. They can only work on it there within the browser itself. So all of these things are enabled by that Exostar app, as well as additional admin functions depending on that role that you have within the application itself. So again, this tenant is really used in this particular use case for organizations and those third parties that they want to work with. Now, we offer a few different versions of this application. We have one in a shared tenant model for you SMBs that really just want to focus on the CMMC requirement. And then we have this kind of model where it is more of a collaboration environment where I want to engage not only CMMC, but maybe ITAR information or other kinds of sensitive or confidential information. And I may want to share that with third parties, but I don't want them to bring in those into my corporate tenant. So let's show you how that actually works. So I've got the environment here. Oops, sorry, wrong browser. And as you see, it's a Teams environment with this Exostar application embedded within the left-hand nav. When I come into this tenant, I'm logged in currently as Adam Spark. And Adam Spark is that administrator for this particular environment for a company called Glory Minerals. And Glory Minerals is the Exostar customer. Exostar's tech ops and support teams are at the back end of this. They're the ones that are monitoring the application. We have training available both on our support site as well as embedded here within the application itself. If you have a problem or your partners have a problem, they can absolutely raise a ticket or give Exostar technical support a call to raise those issues with them. Now, Adam is that sponsor administrator. There are two other folks who are sponsor administrators as well. And if we have an issue, I can also reach out to them. But to get started, Adam went into the administration tab and he added in those other sponsor administrators. He added in Catalina and Maya to help him out. He went ahead and added in those domains of the partners that Glory Minerals wants to work with. If you provide us a whitelist of partners that you have that trust relationship, we'll go ahead and establish an Azure B2B connection with them when you add their domains into this environment. If not, we're going to bring you through Exostar's managed access gateway or those partners through. To add a new one, I would simply click add partner domain, give the @exostar.com and add that partner domain in. If I want to check on permissions or what teams a particular user is, I can look up that user. I can find all the teams that they've been associated with. I can delete that user because I know we're no longer working with Emma. The project that we had with Granger Systems has ended, so I'm going to delete that user. And maybe we're starting a new relationship with a new partner, and I have other people that I want to add in. Because this system may be part of your overall CMMC compliance, you can get Exostar's compliance documents available to you. This is a cloud service that's currently going through that FedRAMP moderate equivalency audit. That's been completed, and we're submitting our paperwork to the government. We expect to do it on December 8th. Our third party is just finalizing their write-up of the successful completion of that audit. Will then appear as a FedRAMP ready application in the FedRAMP marketplace, and you'll be able to get your SAP and SAR from here as well. Now, the majority of the work itself is going to get done in the individual teams. But as I mentioned, the individual teams are least privileged access. So I don't get access into the environment till I've been added to a team and given access to it. We do that again through the Exostar application. And we do that using create team and invitations. So I'm going to create a new team space for a new project that Glory Minerals is kicking off. So it's going to be the Brevard project. It's going to be a 12-month project. And so we're going to go ahead and create that team space. Now, at this time, only Adam has access to the Brevard project. But I've got a list of users that was sent to me to add as well. I've got that here in a text file delimited by semicolons. So I'm going to add these users to that team space. And I'm using our federation with the different sources of users to look these users up. I do this because, maybe not everyone that I've been given already has access in here or is already a user of Exostar even. So it looks up these individuals in those different locations, lets me know that one of these users is from a domain that's not yet authorized. So I could go back to that administration tab, add that domain in. I've got a number of users that are already in the system. So I can invite them into the team space, no problem. If they're from Glory Minerals, because that's the Exostar customer, I can invite those folks as team managers. And now Maya will be able to manage this team space, the Brevard project, by herself without ever having to come back to me to do activities within it. I've got a couple people that, even though they're parts of these other organizations, they don't yet have accounts in Exostar. So in this case, they're going to get an invitation. And in that invitation, it'll tell them to go ahead and first create your Exostar account. When you click on that, it'll direct you to our managed access gateway. You'll set up your username, right? Typically your email address, the password, multi-factor authentication, etc. Then you'll get access to manage Microsoft 365, and you'll get access to the Brevard project team space as well. Then once you have that team space, you can put those additional controls or features into that space as well, using, again, the Exostar application. So we've got this manage teams area. Now, I created a team earlier when I first set up this environment for Glory Minerals. I created a team called CUI inbox. And in there, I enabled a file drop inbox permission, right? So I enabled team file drop and send files externally. That created a mailbox for this particular team, and it allows individuals from whatever mail system to send information directly into the tenant without it having to come into my corporate systems. If I take a look at the file drop inbox for this team space, I'll see that, before we started today's session, I went in and I sent in some information for Project Brevard. Now, when I sent this in, the manager for this project, so in this case, Adam, would have gotten an email saying, hey, somebody sent you some information. It would have directed me to come in here. I would click on it. I'd read the email message. I'd also see that it's got a number of attachments. I can export these attachments into the team space. I can then move those over to Project Brevard, because that's where, again, the work itself is going to get done. That's the space where the individual users will, work on the files. They'll open them, edit them, do all that work in that project space. We may want to do some additional permissioning around things like that. So we've got a number. Don't know what happened there. Sorry. Let me move this down a little bit. sorry. Come on now. There we go. No. There. Okay. Let me get rid of that again. Sorry. That, oops. Oh, sorry. I screwed up everything here. So let me click on that again. This will open this up in SharePoint. I've got these files here. I can then delete the files I don't want to. I could then move those over to the project Brevard itself. Now, again, what we're doing here, right? It's just really the Teams functionality. And what we're trying to show here is that we're not disabling any of that functionality. You're still able to work that, use that familiar interface, and have that seamless collaboration experience that we all, utilize on a day-to-day basis. Now, as we get close to the end here, just want to quickly recap, right? So what this allows you to do is get that trusted collaboration built on top of the Exostar platform that many of you are using today to collaborate successfully with many other organizations out there, but do it in a manner that's compliant with the latest regulations. Those things around ITAR, around CMMC, etc. But separate it from your corporate environment so you don't overshare with those third parties that you may have to work with just to get a particular project completed. Now, Exostar has a host of solutions around compliance and different requirements. We have this around, obviously, secure collaboration. We have a number of supply chain solutions, both on the demand side as well as on the PO collaboration side. And then, obviously, we have a compliance suite built around CMMC itself. These things work everything from our certification assistant, where you can manage your overall CMMC program, to these secure collaboration solutions as well. So again, if you have any questions, please reach out. We'd be happy to help. Now I'm just going to quickly check the chat here for a couple to see if anybody submitted any questions while I was talking. So we did get one. For defense contractor, what defines CUI? So the thing that defines CUI is the originating organization. So they're the ones who are going to label something as controlled unclassified information, and you'll be able to see it on the document itself. It should have the proper labeling in, clearly labeled for you, so you know that that is CUI. All right, everybody. Well, it looks like there are no more questions, so I want to thank you all for your time and attention today. Everyone have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much.